It started on a night like any other. I had just moved into a quiet apartment building on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. The neighbors seemed normal. The streetlights flickered like they always do, and everything felt calm. Too calm, maybe. I didn't think much of it, not at first. But something felt off from the moment I stepped inside, like I was being watched. The first few days passed quietly. I unpacked, set up my little space, and tried to settle into a new routine. But every night, right around 2 a.m., I'd get this strange feeling, like a chill running down my spine. I'd wake up suddenly, heart racing, and feel like something, or someone, was staring at me. Not from outside, not from a dream, but right there, inside the room. At first, I blamed it on stress. A new place, a new chapter. Maybe my mind was just playing tricks on me. Until the third night. That's when I saw it. I was half asleep, lying on my side when I opened my eyes. And there it was. A shadowy figure standing at the corner of my room. Not moving, not saying a word. Just staring. I couldn't make out the face. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe properly. My body felt frozen, like I was locked in place by its gaze. It was as if time had stopped, and all that existed was that stare. I blinked, and it vanished. Or maybe I wanted it to vanish. I don't know. But that was only the beginning. Because the next night, the stare came back. And this time, it was closer. The second night felt different. I had convinced myself that the first night was just a trick of the mind, too much stress, too many new changes. But that night, as I lay in bed, something in the air felt thick, heavy, the kind of stillness that makes you uncomfortable, like when you know someone is watching you but you can't find them. I tried to ignore it, pulling the blanket over my head and closing my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. It wasn't long before I felt it again, the coldness. A chill creeping through the room, settling around me like a thick fog. My body tensed. There was no sound, no movement, but I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, the creeping awareness that something was there. I couldn't fight it anymore. Slowly, I opened my eyes, and there it was. The same shadowy figure, but this time, it was standing just a few feet away from the foot of my bed. Its outline was blurred, its features hidden in darkness. I could feel my pulse quicken, my chest tightening as though I couldn't breathe. My eyes couldn't leave it. I wanted to look away, to move, but my body wouldn't listen. It was as if the figure's gaze was holding me in place, forcing me to stay locked in that moment. I told myself it wasn't real. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a trick of the light, the way the shadows danced from the moonlight outside. Maybe it was a dream, and I was still asleep. But the longer I stared, the less I believed that. I reached for my phone, hoping to turn on the light or call someone, but my hand wouldn't move. The fear had taken hold of me completely. All I could do was stare back into those shadowy depths. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, the sweat beginning to bead on my forehead. Then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, it happened. The figure leaned forward, its head tilting slightly, as if it was studying me, figuring me out. I could feel its presence closing in, the air growing even colder, as though it was surrounding me. And then, nothing. It was gone. The room felt empty, still. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My mind was racing, questioning everything. Was I losing my mind? Was this some sort of haunting, or was I just being paranoid? I tried to push the thoughts away, but they wouldn't leave me. The next day, I went about my routine, trying to distract myself, trying to pretend it hadn't happened. But that evening, as the sun began to set, the same feeling crept back into the air. And deep down, I knew it was waiting for me again. The third night came faster than I expected, and the weight of the air in the apartment felt heavier than before. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out of place, lurking just beyond my sight. I tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid, but the silence in the apartment,
The way the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally across the walls made it impossible to ignore the gnawing fear that grew inside me. I tried to keep myself busy, scrolling through my phone and watching random videos to drown out the growing sense of unease. But every so often, my eyes would flicker to the corner of the room where I knew I had seen that figure before. I couldn't help it. It was like I was drawn to it. The more I tried to focus on something else, the stronger the pull became.
Then, as if on cue, the lights flickered, and the room seemed to grow colder. My heart skipped a beat. I could feel it again, the presence, lurking in the dark. It wasn't just the cold or the silence. It was the feeling of being watched. And not just watched, studied. The same sensation I had felt the first time. I glanced around, searching for any sign of movement, but nothing. It was as if the apartment had become a vacuum, the silence pressing down on me from all sides. Suddenly I heard it, a soft, barely audible scraping sound coming from the corner. It was subtle, but it sent a rush of adrenaline through my body. My eyes snapped to the place I had been avoiding all night, and there, in the corner of the room, I saw something move, just a twitch, a shadow shifting ever so slightly. My breath caught in my throat. I sat frozen in place, not daring to move. I knew if I made any noise, if I reached for my phone or ran, whatever was there would know I was aware of it. I didn't want to know what would happen if it knew I was awake. The scraping sound grew louder. It was unmistakable now, a dragging, slow sound, like something heavy being moved across the floor. I couldn't see it clearly, but I could feel it. It was close, too close. And then, just as my mind screamed at me to do something, I heard a whisper. It was faint, a mere breath against my ear, but it was clear enough for me to make out the words. "Why are you still here?" I gasped, my body tensing as the fear rushed through me. My legs felt like they were made of stone, and I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped in that moment, in that question, unable to even answer. The silence after the whisper was deafening, and the air seemed to close in on me. It was waiting, watching, and I had no idea why. I couldn't move. My body felt like it was frozen in place, my limbs heavy as if the air itself had turned to lead. The whisper still lingered in my ears, the words repeating over and over in my mind. "Why are you still here?" My heart pounded so loud in my chest I thought it might burst. I wanted to scream, to shout for help, but the words wouldn't come. The terror had stolen my voice, locking it inside me. I didn't dare take my eyes off the corner of the room. The shadow that had been there before, it was moving now, shifting slowly, deliberately, like it was savoring my fear. I could feel its presence getting stronger, closer. The air grew colder, the temperature dropping so rapidly that I could see my breath in the dim light. The scraping sound started again, louder this time, as though something was dragging itself across the floor toward me. I could almost hear it breathing. My mind screamed at me to get up, to run, to do anything to escape. But my body wouldn't listen. It was as if some invisible force was holding me down, forcing me to stay locked in place. Every instinct I had told me to flee, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away. The figure was closer now, so close that I could almost feel it breathing down my neck. My skin crawled, every nerve in my body screaming in terror, but I was paralyzed. And then, suddenly, the figure moved. It didn't walk, it didn't shuffle. It glided, as if it were floating just above the ground. I could see it now more clearly, the shape of it, tall, thin, almost too thin. Its limbs seemed to stretch unnaturally long, its silhouette flickering in and out of focus. But its eyes, those eyes, were the worst part. They glowed faintly, two piercing lights in the darkness, fixed on me with a cold, unblinking stare. I tried to blink, to break the gaze, but I couldn't. It was like my eyes were trapped, my body unable to look away. The more I stared into those eyes, the more I felt myself slipping, like they were pulling me into some kind of void. My vision started to blur, my head spinning. Suddenly, the room seemed to close in on me, the walls pressing tighter and tighter until it felt like I couldn't breathe. Panic surged through me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I managed to move. I jerked my hand forward, reaching for the lamp on my nightstand, desperate for light, for anything to break the hold this thing had on me. But the moment I moved, the figure suddenly lunged. It was too fast. 1 second, it was standing still in the corner. The next, it was inches away from me, its face a blur of shadow and light. The air went still again. I couldn't even hear myself breathing. It felt like time had stopped. The figure's face was inches from mine now, but I still couldn't make it out. Just those glowing eyes, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach twist. Then, in a voice that was so low I almost couldn't hear it, the figure spoke again. "Why, do you run?" The words didn't make sense. Why did it ask me that? I felt a strange pull in my chest, like I should answer, like it was waiting for something. My mind raced, trying to find a way out, a way to escape. But before I could say anything, the figure leaned closer, its face coming into sharp focus. The expression, or lack of one, was terrifying. No eyes, no mouth, just those glowing orbs staring into mine. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished, just gone, like it had never been there. I gasped for air, the pressure in the room lifting, but the terror didn't leave. It was worse now, because I knew it would be back. The whisper, the stare, the eyes. It was all part of something much bigger than I had ever realized. I stumbled to my feet, but my legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. I knew I had to leave, to get out of that apartment. But something deep inside told me it wasn't just the apartment that was haunted. No. Whatever it was, it had followed me. It was inside me now, and I didn't know if I could escape it. I reached for the door, my hand trembling as I touched the knob, but the second I turned it, the temperature dropped again. The shadows in the hallway seemed to shift, moving of their own accord. I froze, my hand still on the knob, fear rising in my throat. And then, from behind me, I heard it again. The whisper. "Don't leave. We're not done yet." I froze, my hand still on the doorknob, the whisper echoing in my ears. "Don't leave. We're not done yet." The words were soft, yet they rang with a chilling clarity that made my blood run cold. My breath caught in my throat, and I dared not turn around. I couldn't. My body felt rooted to the spot. The hallway outside the door was dark, too dark. I could barely make out the edges of the walls in the dim light from the apartment. I wanted to leave, to break free. But the moment I thought about moving, a sense of dread washed over me. Something was wrong. Something had changed. It wasn't just the figure anymore. It was the entire apartment, the air around me. I tried to ignore it, tried to turn the doorknob, but the door wouldn't budge. I twisted harder, panic bubbling inside me. It was locked. How could it be locked? I hadn't locked it. I was sure I hadn't locked it. My pulse quickened, and a cold sweat started to form on the back of my neck. I pressed my shoulder against the door, pushing harder, but it still wouldn't open. That whisper, that haunting voice echoed again, closer now, as if it were right behind me. "Stay with me. You're not leaving yet." I spun around, my eyes wide, scanning the room. There was nothing there, just the shadows. And yet, the temperature had dropped even further. I could see my breath, a fog in the air. My heart raced, the fear crawling up my spine. I backed away from the door, unsure where to go, what to do. I wasn't alone. I knew that now. Then, it happened. A creak, a soft, almost imperceptible sound coming from the corner of the room where I had seen the figure before. My gaze snapped to it, and this time, the figure was there, not in the corner, but in front of me. It wasn't floating anymore. It was standing, its face, or what I assumed was its face, now visible. But what shocked me wasn't the glowing eyes or the shadowy outline. It was the shape of the figure. It wasn't just a shadow. It was familiar, too familiar. I stumbled backward, my heart stopping for a split second as the figure moved forward. No, not moved, shifted. The face wasn't a face anymore. It was my face, my own eyes staring back at me, hollow and dark, the expression twisted into something cruel. My mind reeled, trying to process it. How? How could this thing look like me? I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The figure mimicked my every movement. When I took a step back, it stepped forward, mirroring my every action. It was as if it was playing with me, toying with my fear. "Why do you fight it?" the figure whispered, its voice unmistakably mine, but hollow, cold. "You can't escape. You're already part of this now." A surge of panic overwhelmed me. What was it saying? What was it doing? Was this some kind of sick game? I reached for my phone, desperate for any kind of signal, any help. But the screen flickered, and the battery died instantly. The shadows seemed to grow thicker, swallowing up the light. I couldn't see anything clearly anymore. It felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, and no matter what I did, I couldn't wake up. "You're the one who's been staring," the figure whispered, its hollow eyes never leaving mine. "You're the one who never looked away." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just following me. It wasn't just watching me. It had been waiting for me. And worse, it wasn't just in my apartment anymore. It was in my mind. I could feel the walls closing in again, the air growing tighter. I felt suffocated. There was nowhere to go. No way to run. The figure took another step forward, and this time, when it moved, it reached out, not toward my body, but toward my reflection in the mirror across the room. And as its hand grazed the mirror, I saw something that made my heart stop. It wasn't just the figure's reflection in the glass. It was mine too. Both of us staring back, one with a twisted grin, and the other wide-eyed with terror. That's when I realized. It wasn't just the apartment. It wasn't just the shadows. It wasn't just me. There was something deeper, something connected to me, something I had invited in without realizing it. And it was hungry. I couldn't breathe. My body was frozen, paralyzed by the horror unfolding in front of me. The figure, my twisted reflection, reached toward the mirror, and I felt the pull. My own hand moved without my command, stretching forward toward the glass, mirroring the movement of the creature standing across the room. It was like we were one, a dark reflection of myself, connected by something far deeper than I could understand. I fought to pull my hand back, to break the connection, but it was as if the mirror itself was pulling me in. My fingers tingled with an icy coldness, and I felt an overwhelming force beginning to drain me, siphoning the life out of me, piece by piece. My eyes locked on the figures, those hollow, lifeless eyes that were my own, only wrong. "You think you can escape?" the figure whispered, its voice echoing in my mind. "You're already inside me." Desperation surged within me. I had to get out. I had to break free before it consumed me entirely. In one last act of defiance, I yanked my hand back with all the strength I could muster. For a split second, nothing happened. The shadows around me seemed to pause, as if everything was holding its breath. Then, with a sudden rush, the figure lunged toward me. But this time, I was ready. I closed my eyes and braced myself, praying that something, anything, would work. And then, I felt the force vanish. The weight that had been pressing on me, suffocating me, disappeared in an instant. I opened my eyes to find the room quiet, still. The shadows were gone. The figure was gone. I was alone. But I didn't feel safe. Something was wrong. The air was still thick with unease, as though the darkness hadn't truly left. Slowly, I turned, my eyes scanning the room for any sign of the creature. Nothing. I breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. As I stepped toward the door again, something caught my reflection in the mirror. A small, faint movement. I turned sharply, my heart racing. The figure was there, not in the corner, not standing still, but behind me, inside the reflection. It was me, but not me. It was me, with those same hollow eyes, grinning. I stumbled back, my mind spinning with disbelief. It wasn't over. The creature hadn't left. It had simply shifted. And as I stared into the mirror, the reflection smirked at me as if it knew something I didn't. And then, in a final twist of fate, the reflection spoke, its voice chillingly calm. "We're not done yet." The last thing I saw before everything went black was my own smile, twisted and wicked. The darkness that followed was suffocating. I tried to scream, to fight against the overwhelming pull, but no sound escaped. My body felt weightless, as if I was being dragged into a void, the world around me twisting and warping. I couldn't escape. No matter how hard I tried, I was drawn back to the reflection, back to that place where the line between what was real and what was not had blurred. When I woke up, the apartment was quiet again. The oppressive silence was almost comforting, but it didn't last. I slowly opened my eyes, disoriented, my body still heavy with fear. The first thing I noticed was the mirror. It wasn't just reflecting the room now, it was reflecting me, but not me. The figure had taken its place. It stood there, calm and still, mimicking my every movement. The twisted, hollow eyes stared back at me, but now they were different. There was no malice in them, no hunger. Just an eerie calm, like it had finally found what it wanted. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My thoughts scrambled for answers, but I had none. The figure, my own reflection, was me, yet not me. It had absorbed everything, the fear, the confusion, the pain. And now it stood as if it had always been there, a mirror image, a shadow I couldn't outrun. I didn't know what happened next. It was as if the reflection had taken over, swallowed the fear, and left me with only the cold, hollow emptiness. The door to the apartment opened easily this time, without struggle. The hallway outside felt empty, untouched. But I knew better now. The creature, the reflection, it wasn't bound by walls or doors. It was in me. It had always been there, lurking beneath the surface. And as I stepped out of the apartment, I couldn't help but glance one last time at the mirror, now just an ordinary glass. But deep inside, I knew. The reflection wasn't truly gone. It was still waiting. Maybe it wasn't the apartment that was cursed. Maybe it was me. Maybe it had always been me. And perhaps that was the real horror, the realization that whatever that thing was, it wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a monster. It was something I had become, something I couldn't escape, no matter where I went. As I walked away, a part of me knew the truth. I would never be free. Because the reflection wasn't just a mirror, it was my own soul, and it was waiting,